Joining us now is Dr. Matthew Sussex, visiting fellow at the Australian National University's Strategic and Defence Studies Centre. Matt, good to see you on this looming US deadline. As we know, Donald Trump wants Russia to end the war in Ukraine by Friday. Do you expect Russia will be disregarding that?
Oh, I absolutely expect that. I would have thought, Ash, that Vladimir Putin would think that the number of extensions he's been given on his war in Ukraine points towards the latest expiry date of Friday, probably being very, very similar in that if he ignores it and continues on, then Trump will come back with another 2 weeks. Or perhaps another 30 days or so. Although this time, it may be a little bit different because the White House has said that if Putin doesn't comply, then it will consider putting 100% tariffs on countries that continue to buy Russian oil. And that would mean particularly China, but also India. The question then is, I guess, whether the White House wants to continue damaging its relationship with New Delhi by putting those tariffs in place. But if it did, then that would have probably quite a significant impact on the Russian economy.
And how is Russia's economy tracking? How devastating have the economic sanctions we've already seen been so far?
Yeah, well, look, the Russian economy's been remarkably resilient, really, in that, it's actually been growing since the invasion of Ukraine, most recently at around about 4%. However, it does look as though it's headed for a bit of a cliff. Their banking chief recently said that Russia is perhaps potentially on the verge of a recession due to the economy becoming overheated. And at the same time, by sort of transiting to, I guess, a war economy is the best way to put it, the Russians have driven up inflation, and they have driven up interest rates, and they've also spent through a lot of the money they had in the kitty, the sort of sovereign wealth fund that they put in place to try and insulate Russia against Western sanctions. So with all of those things sort of coming due at once, you would think that perhaps, the economic pressure on Russia is starting to become a little bit more significant than previously it has.
In that story we just played, we saw Russia's declaration that it now has no limits on deployment of nuclear missiles. Did you see that as a direct response to the US sending subs to the region?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is something that really Moscow has not been really an agreement it hasn't really been honouring for quite a while. We know, for instance, that it had nuclear-capable Iskander missiles in its Kaliningrad enclave, and had them there before the invasion of Ukraine. So, to an extent, that this is a formality, but it's also one which is deliberately calculated to retaliate, I guess, at Donald Trump, and it marks, the fact that really Russia has pretty much withdrawn from every arms control agreement that it has when it comes to nuclear weapons, and that is something that's very dangerous because without monitoring by international inspectors, there's really no telling how many nuclear weapons Russia has, how many it's building, and also potentially where it's deploying them as well. So that again is intended to ratchet up the pressure on the Trump administration by sort of sowing this fear of escalation that Putin loves to do with his rivals, to say, well, basically my threshold is higher than yours.
And when we look at Ukraine, has Volodymyr Zelensky, do you think, managed to recover his relationship with Donald Trump after that disastrous Oval Office meeting? Or are there real trust issues there between the leaders, do you think? How's that relationship going?
Oh, look, I don't think it's ever going to be as close as the relationship between, Zelensky and Biden and certainly a Democrat-controlled Congress. But nonetheless, it does look as though the US will permit the European Union to buy American weapons and then give them to the Ukrainians. Not so much, of course, that it'll be supplying them itself, although there was a thaw over the use of these very important Patriot surface-to-air missiles that the Ukrainians desperately need to protect critical infrastructure. But still, again, there are questions about whether the Trump administration really is fully committed to helping Ukraine to defend itself. One example, I guess, is the option on the table for the United States to sanction Russia's so-called shadow fleet of oil tankers, which it uses to get round sanctions. These are sort of dubiously flagged ships, a ghost fleet, if you like, that carries Russian oil around the world. And if Trump did decide to do that, then that would actually be the very first time his administration, since his inauguration, had put any new sanction on Russia. So he has that option open, and he is apparently mulling it. And I guess time will tell as to sort of how committed he is to follow through.
Yeah, we'll be watching with interest. Dr. Matthew Sussex, thank you.
Thanks, Ash.